Days so hard, they're at the top of their game. We're about to make sure you know our names. Adonis Finest, the podcast, oh so fly. We stay on our grind, aiming high like diamonds. We shine, inspiring the mass through motivation and elevation. Breaking down all classes, teaching reaching. We can show you never fall with a helping hand. We rise from the crawl, from the bottom to the top. Never be stopped. Say no to doubt, say no to fear. Pushing boundaries, making it clear. You've got the power, you're a pioneer. Unstoppable in control, have no fear. Adonis Finest, oh, we're on a mission. Breaking molds, creating waves, no inhibition. We're the podcast that's here to inspire. With our words, we'll set your dreams on fire.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first Adonis Finest podcast. And Adonis Finest, for those of you all who don't know, represents some extraordinary people. I know so many extraordinary people in my life and that I've been doing business with and that I'm friends with. So one at a time, you'll be seeing a series of interviews from some of the most extraordinary people I know today. We have my beautiful friend, Justin Robinson here. We've known each other, Justin, for how long have we known each other? For 15
years.
About 15 years.
Yep.
And through him, I mean, the conversations that he and I have at my dealership are just priceless, which is one of the brainchilds from our conversation has stemmed this particular podcast. Because you ever have those conversations that you wish that everybody could hear? It's so uplifting. After talking to him when he buys his cars, after talking with him, I'm always so refreshed. I'm always so uplifted from talking to you. You're always positive. Always, always, always. Justin, I have never heard you say anything negative about anything. And we talk about where that comes from. Your style of dress, I kind of emulated that a little bit. You know, I see you check me out from time to time.
That's right. I got to check, make sure you're doing it right.
You know, you started that, right?
Okay.
So, and also, some of the things that I picked up from you was I have a friend who does 4 and 3. That means 4 great things that she does every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing. Okay. But I know how for 6 months, you were on the bicycle thing. Mm-hmm. Just fitness. And then for another 3 or 4 months, you would just switch things.
Right.
And to me, that's amazing. You live your life. There's a question in it coming up. I'm just setting all this up, right?
I'm enjoying hearing about myself.
Right.
Who you're talking about.
And I have to do that. I have to do that because you're like, oh yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
All the way from, you'll pick up a hobby for 4 to 6 months and get really deep into it, and then you're on to something else.
Yeah.
And that's conquering.
Yeah.
Now, all of this ties around. It wraps around what we're cut from the same cloth in what we do for a living. I'm in sales.
Right.
And you're in sales.
Correct.
And that's our bond together. I mean, very few people speak the language that we speak.
Right.
Very few people. And that's why it's so enriching to speak with you. Justin, where did it all begin?
I think the whole idea of doing sales came from my parents. So originally, my thought was that I was going to be a physician. So I came down from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Atlanta to go to Morehouse College and was pre-med and didn't do so great, right? Figured out that might not be my calling. One reason that probably stuck in my mind more than anything else was as I met physicians, I found out that when they had a bad day, it meant that somebody had lost their life. And I really didn't want to be in a position where having a bad day had that much gravity, right? I also was in a blessed position where my mother started as a sales rep for Xerox and ended up being a territory manager in the Midwest. and my father was a pharmaceutical rep for Johnson & Johnson and some other device manufacturers. So I knew that that was a way that you could make money. Growing up, we lived in neighborhoods where physicians lived, except my parents had better quality of life. They were able to come home, and again, their bad days might be losing a client or not selling a copier.
Not as tragic as losing a life.
Not
right?
tragic at all.
Right. And in there, because I met your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She bought a car too.
She bought her
down there. Yeah.
Yes. And the reason that I will never forget her was she looks a whole lot younger than what she is.
That's true.
She helped me with my diet about raw foods and different things like that. She's got the pearly eyes and the
Perfect
skin, the white teeth and everything. She's just a beautiful woman. That smile defines her.
Absolutely.
Just a wonderful woman. So when did you decide that after you left Morehouse, what was the gap in between I'm going to do this pharmaceutical sales? And was that your first stint at sales?
No. So the story went like this. So I graduated, but during my time at school, I had a daughter. Okay.
So you got a car for me too?
Yeah, she sure did.
You brought.
She sure did. So by the time I graduated from Morehouse, my daughter was already about 3 years old, and her mother was here in Atlanta. So I knew that going away to medical school was going to be suboptimal. I mean, having a daughter and then having to move away for whatever reason for 4 years and then another 4 years, it wasn't going to work out for that time. So then I had to look deep in my soul, but I didn't have to look too far because I already had these examples that we talked about. I just never considered sales as a career. But when I considered the lifestyle that I wanted to have, and I could look back at the lifestyle that I had growing up, and that seemed to fit. So I decided that I wanted to get into medical sales, right? Unfortunately for me, to get into medical sales, they want you to not only have a degree in science, they also want you to have 3 years of outside sales experience, which I did not have, okay? The first outside sales job I had was selling Medicare supplement insurance, door to door.
That's a whole different animal.
Now that was brutal. That was brutal. I did that for about 6 months.
What year was it? Do you recall that? Do you recall just the time frame?
It must have been 2001. Okay.
That's when people were still doing, because I used to do door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
And it was a whole lot different where people, oh, hey, come on in.
Right, yeah.
Try it now.
Yeah. People, sometimes people would be brutal, but a lot of times people would be like, oh, yeah, come on in. And, you sit at their kitchen table and you'd have your sales presentation and you talk to them about whatever it is that you're trying to get them to look at. And,
6 months. You did that for 6 months.
6 months.
Were you good at it, or?
No, I wasn't good at it. Well, let me say it like this. What they didn't tell me when I was getting started at the job, because when you're in insurance sales, they sell you a multiple of the face value of the policy that you sell, right? So if you sell, let's say, $100 policy, they're going to pay you, let's say, 10 times that up front so that you can make a living. And then as long as the people keep the policy in force, then you're fine. If they cancel it, then you got to pay that back. Also, the main thing they didn't tell me was that you only got that multiple payment up front is if you got them to do auto bank draft. And I don't know if you remember back during that time, a lot of, and these are Medicare supplement policies, so people 65 and older, a lot of them didn't want to do that. So even though I was selling policies, I wasn't getting the income that I needed to pay my bills.
I understand.
So I was paying my bills on credit cards because I had just got married and I couldn't let my wife see me failing, right? So after the 6 months, I was going to job fairs and I ended up getting a job selling copiers. Go figure, just like my mother.
Continue.
that had a base salary, so it was much more beneficial, plus commission.
Right.
And I was able to do that for 3 years and be successful at it. And by the time I finished my 3rd year, pharmaceutical companies were calling me.
Now, did she advise you at all with when you were selling the copiers?
No. The company that I worked for was a company called Lanier.
All right.
And
Yeah.
I remember the training program they had stolen from Xerox, which was my mother's company, because Xerox had, I guess, a world-renowned training program. So there wasn't too much
I get it.
consultation that I needed to have outside. I mean, they knew all the numbers. They said, if you book this many appointments, you're going to get this many live presentations, and this many live presentations is going to turn into this many sales.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get this many, I mean, they had it all mapped out.
Oh, sure.
They could tell you exactly what you were going to make if you did the work, but they told you most of your job is going to be getting told, no, don't worry about that. You just keep running the numbers and you're going to make it. So I started with that. I think the base at that job was maybe 32,000, something like that. And by the time I finished my 3rd year, I was doing 90,000 a year.
Nice. So somewhere in there, maybe it's because your environment, you already talked about your environment, mother, father. But what you and I talk about on the side is those days that things just, nothing tragic is going to happen. Nobody died, but we have those days. And I remember having a conversation with you, and it inspired me so much. What the conversation was about was doing the work, just doing the work. Right. I remember you told me, Andre, it's like clockwork. If you make X amount of calls, then you'll get X amount of, no matter how good you are, no matter how good, it's the law of, a lot of people say it's the law of averages, but it's the law of large numbers.
Correct.
That's what it is.
Correct.
So if you just continue to make those phone calls, just like a baseball player gets up at the bat, gets up to the plate and just swings. There's some technique in that, and there's a whole different type of thing, but it's almost the same principle by getting up to bat and taking your swings every single day.
That's a perfect example, because if you talk about baseball, which I'm not a big baseball fan, but I do know that they have batting averages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the top paid baseball players, the best batters, what is a good batting average?
Say 300 for the year.
And what does that mean?
That means 3 out of 10. So if you get up 10 times and if you get 3 base hits, yeah, you 7 times you got out.
Right.
7 times you failed. But 3 times out of 10, you're a star.
Right.
Isn't that something?
That's something. But see, that's something that I kept in my mind. Even if you talk to or listen to people like Michael Jordan, he's remembered as the greatest of all time. But if you listen to him, he'll tell you he missed more than any other basketball player.
7,000 game-winning shots. I almost know this by heart, and that he's lost. I mean, so many things. Let him tell it. Right. There's so many things that he was not, the greatest at, but he was the best because, his skill spoke for itself.
But the best way to lose is to not try. The best way to not score is to not take the shot. So these are just little things that I would keep in my mind. Other things like the least I'll do is whatever it takes, right? It's a little thing, but it helps you get over the getting discouraged, right? So every day I do something. I don't ever do nothing. I always move towards my goal, towards my business goal, and that helps me stay focused. When I had my first pharmaceutical interview, since that was the goal that I was looking at, they always start with phone interviews. They don't want to waste their time and money talking to you if you're not going to work out, right? So they call you on the phone and they start you with a battery of questions. And I remember the guy, one of the questions he had, so you were in copiers for 3 years. I said, looks like you did well. How did you deal with all the no's? I said, well, there weren't any no's on any of my commission checks. He laughed. The interview stopped right there. He said, you know what?
Done.
We're going to fly you out.
I love that.
When I said it, I didn't think it was cute or anything. I just was being serious.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I know you like that.
Yeah, because, you're out there getting told no day in, day out, but you have these successes. And at the end of the month, you get this check for the fruits of your labor, right? And when you look at it, it's just a yes.
I remember another occasion you told me a specific story about. I remember every story you told.
Okay,
I remember.
Let's see if I do.
One. All right.
Oh yeah, I told you about that.
You were calling on doctor's offices, and there was this, probably a couple of them, but there was one particular doctor's office you would stop by and bring donuts. Bring donuts. Hey, I'm the guy with what is XYZ product or something like that. You would come by. Nope, can't see the doctor. But you made friends with the receptionist. And whoever they were using, I believe a couple of years went by, but you would always stop by. You show your face, very polite, well dressed, And when it came time, I think after a matter of years, they remembered you. They gave you a call, and that turned out to be one of your biggest accounts.
So that is one story, but I would say that has happened more than a few times. And in fact, most of the large accounts, most of the good relationships that I have developed because of that behavior. And I think it's because, salespeople have a certain view of how we do our work, right? They think we're trying to force them to do something or trying to be slick. When you're able to show consistency, that you're in it for the long term, that you continue to show up, then people look at you different, right? They're saying, well, Jesus, if we switch or put our money or, use this service or whatever this guy represents, he's been consistent even when we haven't been giving him business. I love it. So you just have to communicate your personality to these people. This has happened so much that even I went to visit my mom at her home in McDonough a while ago, and she asked me how my day was, and I said I was out cold calling down to whatever part of town, and she said, how'd it go? Are they gonna use your service? And I said, oh yeah, they're gonna use it. They don't know it yet, and they don't know when, but I love it. Everybody says yes.
I love it. In that respect, you don't really call that a no then,
No. I don't call it a no, because people don't ever, and it's all about the numbers, right? Because I can even go on these visits and tell what's going to happen before I do it, because generally it takes about 8 times talking to somebody for them to actually pull the trigger or make a decision, right?
And you know this.
And I already know that. So when I go in the first time to introduce myself, it's not to get them to convert any business. It's just to go in there, introduce myself, briefly introduce whatever the company is or the product services that I have at the time, knowing that they're not going to remember what it is as soon as I leave. The second time, you can see it in their face that I talked to you, but I don't remember what you have. And then you tell them again. The third time, they know they saw you before. They're not sure about what your service is, but they're sure that they're not switching. They're sure that whatever they have, even though it's not perfect, they don't want to try something new, right? By the time you come the fourth time, they see that you're in it, right? So now the sales questions that you would ask, or the things that you learn in sales training, you can actually ask and they'll answer, right? Because they have seen you. So when you ask them, how's your experience with XYZ, whoever you're using, they'll be like, well, this or that. They don't remember what you said about yours, but now at least the conversation has started. By the time the 6th, 7th visit have come, and you've had this back and forth, and they know they've told you the limitations of whatever they're using, and they know you know that, by the time you come in that 8th time, the conversation is more like this. The service that I have is really suboptimal. Tell me again why yours is superior to what I'm doing. And you give them the same sales pitch you gave them the last 7 times. The difference is this time they hear you.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you waited till you earned the right. You've earned the right to ask those.
Correct.
You didn't just open the door. You didn't just kick it in, and you didn't just dazzle them with, all that personality and all that stuff like that.
I wish I could be, have that much talent or skill, or there was some secret message, but it's not. It's just being persistent and consistent, being honest. I think for a lot of people that's refreshing. I know when I'm buying something, I mean, you know everything that you buy, a product or a service, has benefits, and you know it has limitations. And if whoever you're talking to is able to communicate that, then you can make a good decision, because whatever you have has benefits and limitations, but apparently the fact that you're talking to a salesperson means the limitations have become overwhelming to you. So you communicate that, they're able to weigh, well, what you're saying is that some of the limitations I'm dealing with, you have maybe half or a quarter of those, plus you have some upside.
Which brings me to the next question. Which is more important in your field of work? I kind of set you up for this one for further conversation.
Okay.
Is it skill, or is it communicating, talking, or is it listening?
Listening is always the most important.
Tell me about that in your line of work.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I used to, and in my profession where I'm dealing with medical doctors, and I'm not a medical doctor, if you go in there trying to dazzle them with your knowledge, then it turns into a debate, right? And now you're debating somebody that you want to be a client. You're not going to win that debate, because if you win, they're not going to want to use whatever it is that you have, because you beat them in front of their staff, right?
Right.
And if they beat you, they assume you don't know what the hell you're doing in there.
Either way, it's a lose-lose.
Either way, it's a lose-lose. So it's about listening, and listening gives you the opportunity to tell them what they need to hear instead of going in like an encyclopedia, right? And just giving them knowledge. Because when you go to sales training in any sales organization, they're going to give you the sunshine. You're going to put it in your bag, and every time you go on a call, you go pull this sunshine out, and these people are going to be like, I got my vitamin D already. I don't need all that sunshine, right?
Right.
You got to be able to drill down and figure out what it is exactly that they need to hear and when they need to hear it.
Now, that's the key, and that's where I was going next. It's not like you would get out and just vomit all this information.
Exactly.
You decide what they need to hear, when they need to hear it. You may decide to, this new breakthrough that you have, you may decide on your 4th or 5th visit that now's the time when I need to bring this out. But I'm just warming them up first, or something like that, right?
That's exactly right.
And that's direct sales. So every day you have to, I remember I was talking to you one day over the phone, I think it was the weekend, and you were in Friday evening, Saturday evening, you were in studying some products, because it was going to be raining on Monday, and you were like, it's going to be a great day, Andre, on Monday, because that's going to be my phone day. You know, so do you have days where you have just nothing but phone day, and is that weather driven, or is that Justin driven? Is that you decide? How do you plan what you're going to do every day? Me, I show up for work every day, but you decide, this is what I'm going to do. How do you do that?
So this is the whole thing of plan your work your plan, right? So you know what number you have to get. I know what my goal is, right? And I know the prospects that I have. I know my funnel, right? So I will write on paper, not on an iPad or on a computer. I write on a yellow legal pad, put a list of all the people or things that I need to do. Some of it involves emailing, because some offices you can't get in, but you got the email addresses from the decision makers. Those are the things that you can do on those days, or make those calls in offices that you can't necessarily get in, or make calls to current clients to make sure that they have everything that they need to have. But I think for the most part, I'm pretty old school. So I like even today. So a client that I had in the past, right? Their business situation changed, and they didn't need the service that I had at the time. But the relationship was good enough that even though a couple years had passed, the provider called me on my cell phone, said, "Hey, are you still working at?" I said, "Yeah, sure am." They said, "Well, I tell you what, the service that we were using we're not happy with it anymore. Can you come in and talk to us about what you're doing again?"
Beautiful.
out of the blue.
Or is it out of the blue?
Or is it, right?
Because you expect, because you know the footprint that you leave out of every time you leave out of somebody's office. You know what you've done. You know where a lot of salespeople I found miss it is, you know, that term, the fortune is in the follow up. The fortune is in the follow up.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you just said about there's even times when you'll go back to, I mean, you do what we call maintenance on the accounts that you already have. Because if you don't perform that, you don't know if they're still feeling you or not, right?
That's true.
And it's more so you have the relationship with them, because now are they product driven still? I mean, because you're going to have products that you sell to them and that they need. So it's the latest and greatest product that comes to them, you know, they're still going to remember, I've got a relationship with Justin, you know?
I think it's more relationship driven. As many companies as I have worked for, I think when you're new in sales, you might have the impression that whatever it is, the product that you have is greater. But I think most consumers look at most products and services as commodities, right? There might be some benefits, but really they want to work with the person, right? They know that the person is going to support whatever the product or service is. They're not going to have problems. They're not going to be left holding a bag, so to say.
I love it. I love it. So Justin, I know with some of our conversations that you've gone to, how long have you been in pharmaceutical sales?
Medical sales. It's about 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So
5 years in actual pharmaceuticals selling a drug product.
Okay.
And then 15 years selling a laboratory service. Which functionally is the same. You're talking to the same people, trying to get them to make a decision, but instead of getting them to write a prescription for a drug for their patients, you're getting them to, when they collect their specimens from their patients, to send it to your lab to be processed. So
I remember us having a conversation when you were transitioning from the pharmaceutical sales to medical sales.
Mm-hmm.
But you had some of the same clients. You just called. So what you and I have talked about so much is relationships.
Right.
Relationships is, I believe, the true currency in life. I believe it's relationships. And that's why you're able to go back to your clients. What else would you say separates you? It's a two-part question, because I remember when you were switching companies. You were switching companies a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, I got to study the product. But the thing is you talked about relationships and you talked about work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that transition and tell me what drives you, what makes you successful, and why every company that you go in, you end up at the top.
So let's start with making the transition from pharmaceutical sales to medical sales. I don't know if most people know, but for pharmaceutical sales, for any drug company, they have intense training, but really they have very defined scripts, right? They have very defined territories with specific targets that you have to hit on a specific calendar, right? So you'll have some physicians that you have to see every week, some that you have to see every other week, and some that you have to see once a month. And you have to see them that time frame. And when you see them, you have to either read or memorize whatever it is that your script is, and end with, Doc, will you write this prescription for all of your patients that this product is designed for? Which is ridiculous, because nobody's going to do that. But that's how it works, okay? When you get into medical sales, really of any kind, but for laboratory sales in particular, they don't give you any targets, and they don't give you a script. Either you're going to be able to find your targets and you're going to be able to figure out what to tell them to get them to use your service, or you're not going to make it. So when I talk about studying the product, that's what I'm talking about, right? So you have a service that is pretty much a commodity, right? You got other competitors that essentially do the same thing that you do. But through your talking to your clients, your friends, making these relationships and understanding the hierarchy of needs, what's important to them, when you present to them, you present the strengths of your service or product based on what they deem to be the most important, right? When I was making my transition from the pharmaceutical field into the selling the laboratory services, I had to go in with more of a humble spirit, right? Because I had these great relationships, and I also had the sunshine that the company told me that the service had. But fortunately, because of my experience, I figured I probably wouldn't go talk to these people that I had good relationships with and try to snow them on this stuff. So I basically went in and said, listen, this is the company I'm going to be working for. Would you mind looking at what they've told me in sales training as far as what they look at as the benefits of their service, and tell me if you think it has any credence compared to whatever you're currently doing. So one of the main things that I focus on, and I picked this up in copiers, right? Whenever you're cold calling or selling, the first thing that you know when you go into that office is that they already have a copier. When you're selling cars over there, the first thing you know when they pull up is they got a car, probably more than one, right? So the conversation can't be about just selling them a car to somebody that doesn't have one. You got to figure out their whole situation with where they are, with what they have. So from doing that with several of my close clients, friends, I was able to learn what they felt was important. And also I think it helped because instead of me selling it to them, they were able to see it and say, that is good. I think I could use that. Not only will I do it because I know I'm supporting you, but I think this is actually a benefit over and above what I'm actually doing.
I love that approach. And that's why I love our conversations, is because it gives me another angle to look at. You ask them for their opinion.
Right.
And based on the relationship that you've already set with them, then you have what edified them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I trust you. You're the expert, Doc. I trust you. We have a relationship. I trust you. This is what I'm doing now. I need your opinion. That makes I'm an expert. Justin needs my help. Well, if it was anything wrong with it, they'd probably tell you.
They would tell me, right? Because I went in with that.
And you stayed open to it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You just taught me something.
The other thing is that, when you're dealing with people that you already know, and you try to go in and be the expert in something that they know you're new at, how's that? That's not going to work.
It destroys your credibility.
It destroys your credibility. And you can't go in and say, now I'm the lab expert. They're going to be like,
Justin, you were
you were trying to get me to buy birth control last week.
So as you transitioned and you started being at the top of your game, there were other salespeople that do you look at it as competing against them, or are you competing against yourself? What is it? You're at the top.
Usually I'm competing against myself because it's always about plan your work your plan. In the beginning, it was about real monetary goals. Mm-hmm. Like, I want this house. I want these cars. I want to be able to have these trips or whatever it was. And I want to be able to, I guess people have the mentality, right? They want to make these six figures, right? When you're coming up in any industry, that's the goal. And of course, when you do that, then you run into people that make multiple six figures and millions and
seven figures.
Right? So every goal you reach, there's another goal to hit.
Love it.
So that's basically how that went. So I would, most of the time I would end up on top, but it wasn't because I was trying to beat them, because they don't pay any bills in my household. I don't care if they sell 1 million and I sell 500,000. 500,000 spends fine for me. I'm not I'm not worried about what they have going on in their household.
So the leaderboard that you all have, you're not concerned if you're at the top or if you're.
Of course, I like the way I look at the top, but no.
Outside, I know you, Justin.
Yeah, I like to be at the top, but at the end of the day, and of course in sales, people think sales is risky because you always have to perform to get paid. But on the other hand, generally in sales, you don't lose your job for political reasons, right? You can always look at the leaderboard, and if you're at the top, you're not getting fired, right? You can quit, but in other professions, you could be performing, but if whoever doesn't like you, you could be in jeopardy. And
Right.
I like being able to look at my numbers and say, I'm secure, right? Even if I go on vacation or take some personal time, as long as you see yourself at the top of the leaderboard, you're going to be able to come back and withstand it.
Do you take vacations, Justin?
I take if you want to call it vacation, when you win these sales contests, they have to send you on a trip. So I do that. We just came back from Montego Bay, so yeah.
So Justin,
this
we
year's
talked
sales
about
trip.
what drives you. We talked about, your sales prowess, which to me, you're at the top of your game. And we talked about some of the freedoms that you're able to experience, but everybody doesn't have that discipline. Most people are not self-disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody who, do you have to call and report in, or do you run your own schedule? Do you have to let people know what you're doing? Are you micromanaged?
No. And in fact, when I was recruited over to the company that I'm at now, it was because I was taking so much business away from this company. And my manager told me, he said, well, when they wanted to promote me to manager, I wanted to hire you first because I knew I wouldn't have to do anything with you. I could just do what I do and I wouldn't have to ask you anything.
Love it. Love it.
So for the most part, that's how it works. I would say one thing that's interesting is that as you are trying to build your self-discipline, having a wife and a few mortgages and maybe 4 car notes, you're not going to be doing too much sleeping in. Ain't nobody got to call you to go do nothing. Because you know what? Bank of America, they want that car note.
Right.
All 4 of them.
Right. They don't want to hear. I didn't make any sense. Right. So you're not gonna work for that. Thank you for letting me know. We're coming to get it.
So I think, but you have to know yourself, and so you have to use goals as a carrot, something that you want. But when you achieve a goal, most of the time people don't look at it as that, okay, now I achieved it, but now you have to maintain it, right? So a lot of times it's more expensive to have something than it is to get it, to purchase it.
Love that. A lot of times it's more expensive to have something.
Yeah, to maintain it.
Yes. And that's driving you.
Right.
And not getting your business or anything like that, but
get in it.
I've what do you have? A 10-car garage or
we have indoor parking for 9 cars.
And this is for the people out there that are interested in getting in sales, because we talked about this on break, and most people think men and women, no matter the ethnicity, they think in order for them to make those 7- and 8-figure a year incomes, they have to be athletes or entertainers. Well, you're in sales at the top of your game. You've got the QX80 Infinity. You've got you still got that Porsche, right?
Yes.
I see it every now and then, but I'm not supposed to, right? But you have what we call the adult toys, and those are some of those things that get you up in the morning. And
Cool.
Your beautiful wife, well, I tell you, she is. I have to tell you all this story. May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Justin wanted to buy his wife a vehicle. So he came up, picked out the vehicle. You remember this. You came up, you picked out the vehicle, you went ahead and contracted it, you bought it. We had it on the showroom floor. You lured her to come with you to the dealership. She thinks she's up there for a service appointment. Right. So I come in and I put a bow on it on the showroom floor, the Infinity on the showroom floor. I put a bow on it, and I made a big deal out of it. I was like, Linda, look at what your husband has done for you. This is yours. And she didn't get it.
Yeah.
I was like, he bought this. All you have to do is drive it off. He bought this
Because I bought it. It was a few months, and y'all kept the car for me instead of me taking it home.
Exactly, we kept it, and she's the sweetest woman. I've never seen her. I mean, just the sweetest woman. And at that time, all she could do was hold her head down and cry.
She did cry.
She cried.
She said, "Can we afford this?" I said, "It's ours now. We just here for you to take it.
Don't worry about all that. I got this." Much respect to you. Much respect to you. That was the funniest thing, and I teased her about it afterwards. I think the next car you bought, I was like, "You're not gonna cry, are you?" Shame on me. Shame on me. But with making money, comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And I know you've got the beautiful home. You bought I think 7, 8 cars from me alone, right?
Mm-hmm. The only car that I didn't buy from Andre was the Porsche.
The Porsche.
And it was only because Andre don't sell Porsches.
Right. He does now, though. but we can talk about that. I love the lifestyle that I see you or I hear about you living. I love some of the personal things that you've shared with me, and I'm so blessed to have you as my friend. We talked about you go through hobbies every 4 or 6 months.
I think I go through hobbies. I have kind of an addictive personality in that if I get interested in something, I get down in the rabbit hole. I want to know all about it, everything about it. I will dive in and go all the way until I figure I know everything about it. And that's generally when it's not that I give up on it, but I've learned, I keep what I have, but I don't need to accumulate any more of that. I can get another hobby and figure that out.
A couple of those I remember. Tell me about the bike riding.
Okay. So, I got interested in cycling, road cycling.
Cycling, as they call it, right?
So I ended up getting a couple of bikes. If anybody knows, just like any other hobbies, tennis or golf, it can be an expensive hobby. All of the equipment and stuff can be expensive, but that was something that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to have the top of the line equipment. So you end up having a $10,000 bicycle.
The one that you can pick up with one finger.
With no motor.
Right. A real one. Was that fiberglass or was that?
Carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber, that's what it was. I remember what? That's how much? No, there's no motor.
Exactly. Which you could have easily gotten a motorcycle.
Exactly. But this bicycle.
That's what I was interested in.
Was it a fitness thing or was it, what all went into?
I think fitness probably had some role in it, but if you're just going to be fit, you can do other things that don't require you to buy a $10,000 bicycle.
That was my point.
So there's some kind of a status with it. Having carbon fiber sports equipment, it's like having expensive golf clubs and walking around at the club.
And everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows what it is. So there's some of that to it, right?
Who is he?
So when you're out cycling with people and you show up with people that are into that know what it is. So
love it.
It kind of feeds your ego.
Another one of your hobbies. What was the gin thing that you went through?
So I would say,
and what caused that?
I think for most of my college life or before I got into medical sales, I didn't really have a lot of money. You need discretionary income to be sitting around at the bar ordering drinks, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And when you're at the bar, just like with cycling and golf, people kind of judge you on what you're ordering. So I kind of felt insecure in that I didn't know what all of the different liquors were. I didn't know any mixed drinks. I didn't know what drink you would order to impress somebody or what you should be sitting around with. And I did know I probably shouldn't be sitting at the bar with some colorful drink. But outside of that, I didn't know what to have. So I went through the beer thing, wine tastings, things like that. But then I got into whiskey, scotch, bourbon, went through vodka and gin, things like that. And generally what I would do is when you have, some disposable income and you want to compare different levels of drinks, you can just go buy all of them and sit at home and do side-by-side taste tests as you build your collection. So that's essentially what I did. And that created a scenario where if you had a question, or if I was out with my clients and we're at the bar and they have a question about what they should order, or if it's their birthday and they say, oh, I'm a such and such drinker, I say, what's your taste palette? What's your profile? Tell me one that you like. Oh, you like that one? I know one that you'll like even more. But I know because I've tasted it, right? So
expanding your horizon.
Correct. So that's how that works.
Love it. Love it. And what was the other one? Guns.
Firearms.
Firearms, yes. And I know you've been inviting me to the range for so long. It's like I'm still going to take you up on it. But I mean, what? Tell me about that.
I'm an American. I'm big Second Amendment.
Sure.
And anytime, well, specifically for me, there was a time when I felt like whoever the incoming president that they felt like was probably going to win that presidency might choose to limit our access to some of the firearms.
Whoever it is. Yeah.
Well, there was a specific person during that time that made me act this way. But
Okay.
I thought that this person might win. So I thought that if I was going to make these purchases, that I probably should do it before that happened. Fortunately, that person didn't win, but still, I ended up taking that on as a hobby, which I still enjoy now. So mainly pistols and long distance rifles, some ARs, things like that. But I like bolt action, long distance shooting.
Wow.
Pistol shooting.
So how much time would you say that each one of those hobbies, now I've known you for years.
Mm-hmm.
So how much time would you say, because would you say you have a 50-hour work week or 60-hour work week, and then you spend time with hobbies, or, weigh it for me.
For all of those hobbies, I would generally integrate them into the work week, right? Because when I was cycling, I wouldn't just wait till the weekend to cycle. I'd get home, and try to cycle if it was summer and there was still some daylight hours. And even when I was doing the firearms, I would just have memberships at different ranges, different parts of town, or different parts of the state. And so if I was there, I'd get done and then I could go in and practice. With both of those things, the skill that you develop quickly deteriorates if you don't maintain it, right? So you have to constantly be
On your
practicing.
game. Yeah.
Otherwise, you will lose that skill.
Isn't that like life?
That's like life. So you have to stay on top of it. But I think also like life, they say there's like 10,000 hours. If you put 10,000 hours into doing anything, you become a expert. At it,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you're able to put those 10,000 hours in, now you still have a skill that can deteriorate, but it's not going to deteriorate as fast as somebody that doesn't have those 10,000 hours under their belt.
I love that. So okay, two-part question. Did you see yourself when you first started into direct sales? Because I know your background, mom, dad, we've already talked about that. Did you see yourself right now? Did you see yourself at that point being where you want to be, which is where you are right now?
I think, I don't know if I would say that I saw myself in this specific situation, but at some point I did realize that whatever I decided to define as my reality, I could have it. So the fact that I have the things that we discussed, they didn't just show up. At some point, years before that, Linda and I sat down and said, we want to have this house. It needs to have these features. And we had a long list of everything specifically that it needed to have. And it took us 10 years to find that house because we would find homes that would have 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And I'll call her, say, oh, this is a beautiful home. You need to come see it. And she'd go through the list. She'd say, well, it doesn't have that, so I'm not even gonna come look at it.
That's the thing about having a queen. That's the thing about having a queen.
But a lot of this is something that she taught me. So when we were first dating, and neither of us had very much money, but she decided at some point that she wanted this 1996 Acura Legend coupe. It had to be green, and it had to have a tan interior. It had to have the CD player in the trunk, and it had to have a sunroof. Okay, now for the kind of money that we were making at the time, we were Honda Accord money making people. And this was before the internet was big, so you couldn't buy cars on the internet. So we had to go around to all of the Acura Honda places, and these people would tell her, ma'am, you're not going to get this car. This car does not exist in the price range that you're saying that you want to pay for it. Why don't you have this green Accord? Here's an Accord coupe. It's green and tan. It's got a sunroof and a CD. She said, I don't want Accord. I need this Acura.
Love it.
So a couple years later, I can't remember where I was. I was at home, and she called and she said, guess what? Acura Carland called me, and they said they have the car. I said, they have the car? She went through the list. It's the whole car. She said, yeah, 2 guys are going to come to my job, drop the car off, and then go back wherever they came from. They said I can puppy dog it, take it home and decide. I said, what's the price? It's the price I said I want. And she got that car, and from that moment on, watching that transpire, I said, if you can define in great specificity exactly what it is that you want and what you're willing to do to have it, you can have anything you want. Now, you can't have everything you want, but you can have anything that you want.
I love that.
So that's how I basically lived my life from that time that she taught me that lesson. So yeah, some of the things that I have, when I come home, it looks ridiculous to me still.
That's beautiful.
When I'm walking around in my yard, right, I'm still looking like, this is stupid. Why would anybody have all this stuff?
Just grateful.
It's just, yeah.
Just grateful.
But we decided that it was something, and for a large part, that's things that she wanted. You know, when we had our first house, she didn't like being able to see or hear the neighbors. You know, she didn't want neighbors in the back. She wanted to have a lake. She wanted to have room for all her dogs, as many dogs as she thought she might want to have room to run. So part of it was me providing that for her so she could have her dream. And that's my job, to support her. So a lot of people saying, right now we have 4 dogs, we had 5. People say, why you let your wife have all those dogs? I don't let her have them. My job is to support her in her endeavors and dreams. And if that's what she wants, then I provide that, and, you know, a scenario where she can have it and enjoy it.
The all-American man. So Justin, we talked about things that drive us. We talked about adult toys. We talked about making money. Mm-hmm. And we talked about being just so grounded in, you know, who we are and what we do. And then we talked about, you know, your wife. We talked about your wife. She's a delightful woman, but I love what you said at the end about you wanted to be the provider. Mm-hmm. You know, our job, you know, provide and protect.
So yeah, that's a fantastic point, because, you know, you have a lot of people, I don't want to say complain, but they might blame, or they have less than suboptimal relationships, right? And it's easy to blame the spouse, you know, but at a certain point I had to decide, or I had to make the decision for myself that I'm the one that decided to be a husband. What does that look like? What does it look like to be a man? To be a man requires you to, if nothing else, provide and protect. That means you're not splitting bills. That means you're providing. You are providing the household. You are providing the transportation. You are providing everything that requires. And you are protecting her from physical, psychological, and spiritual things that might affect her. And we had some tough conversations there in the beginning, because before I started, you know, doing what I'm doing, we were splitting the bills, and we were having those conversations, and those conversations were painful to me, right? Conversations like, I feel like we're roommates because we're splitting the mortgage and the water bill and the electric bill and all this stuff. So I'm grateful that she was able to come to me and say that she felt that way, even though I won't say it hurt, it was uncomfortable at the time. But when you're faced with discomfort, you have a decision, don't you?
You evolve.
Right. So I had to make a decision. Either I was going to say, I forget her, or I was going to become the man that I'm supposed to be.
And become the man that she needed and wanted.
Right.
That's, that is amazing to me. That is amazing. So you provide, protect, and you do go above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that she's covered.
Well, let me say it like this. I mean, obviously I'm doing it for her because she's there, but really I think when you get married, because people are flawed. So if you go in and say that you're doing this for your spouse, and then you at some point feel like they're not doing what they're supposed to do, you can have the excuse to pull back, right? But the bottom line is that when we stood up there, I made that promise to God, to myself, and to her. So whether she's doing her part or not, I need to do what I said I'm going to do. Now she's doing what she's supposed to do, but if she, we all go through weak moments, but that doesn't give me the excuse to pull back. So I do go over and above because I feel like I'm supposed to.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And that's part of the reasons why we do this, is to give people an inclination, because I have a feeling the reason that you think the way that you do, it's because you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
You experienced it. Dual parent, not just household, but your mom and dad was out getting it. So you lived. So that's what gave you that foundation. What can you say for people who've never seen that?
Right, and I think it's probably difficult for people that haven't seen it, and I feel extremely blessed that I have parents and even extended family that provided a fantastic example to me.
That's that village.
Great relationships. And it does take a village. And I don't know if too many people have that anymore. Right. But I think, like we discussed when the camera was off, even if people don't have that first hand experience, perhaps people can, get that experience from, listening to us discuss it.
Vicarious.
Maybe incorporate some of the things that we're talking about into the life that they have to be able to achieve things that they want. And that's really a part of, pursuing wisdom.
And especially the kids, because again, what we talked about was kids who, think that, neither the music industry or sports is the only way that they can achieve success like what you have achieved. And, we're here to say that there's more to it.
Right.
There's so much more to it. So, Justin, where do you go from here? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I mean, when do you start to land the plane, or what happens next?
So I think right now I'm doing that shopping for the plane to get ready to land it. Right. So building my whole financial education, being able to go from working for money to being able to put myself in a situation where money is working for me, being able to invest and take advantage of compound interest, being able to take advantage of favorable tax laws, things like that. So, and I think that last conversation we had, you asked me what I'm into next, and I said that's the financial aspect is where I am now. Being in sales or any profession where you have to perform, whether that's singing or doing sports or selling, every month you have to perform again. And as good as you are, it's what have you done for me lately? And eventually, I'm 53. You don't want what have I done for you lately? You want to be able to put together something where you can relax a little bit and still, have the benefits of strong income coming in.
Justin, thank you. Thank you for your friendship, unwavering friendship. And and thank you for being a client. Not only does he buy his cars from me, this is my line of all natural spring alkaline water called Water for Life. And we're sitting here parched, and Justin was like, I have some of the water that I bought from you in the car. So wanted to introduce Water for Life. Thank you. Tell me about Water for Life.
Now, this is my water of choice. And truth be told, these rabbit holes that I have, water was one of them. So if you come in my garage, I have about every kind of water, because all of our friends and family, they have whatever specific type or brand of water they like. And we have it. So when they come over, we can have it for them. But the water that I drink is this Water for Life. Now, I buy it from Andre because Andre sells it and I buy it from him. But this is truly the texture of the water. It's smooth, and it just, out of all of the flat spring waters that I've had, this is by far the best tasting and has the best mouthfeel of all of the waters.
I couldn't have said it any better. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to our first episode of Adonis Finest, our podcast. And I have amazing people in my life. And again, the brainchild behind what we just did right now is something. Justin, when did we start talking about this? When did I tell you that I was going to do this? When?
It was years ago.
Years ago.
It was years ago. And we talked about it, but I wouldn't say that we didn't implement it, because every time I would come by, and I came by more than I was just coming to buy cars.
Yeah.
And we would sit there in your office.
Yeah.
And we would just brainstorm. We would just kick it.
Right.
Right.
Just priceless conversations, kind of like what we had now. And I was like, how can people hear this? People need to hear this. People know me, or my friends, people that are watching this are probably going to know me, but you just have such a beautiful spirit about you. And I just says more people need to know him, especially with how you love and honor and adore your wife and how you live your life, and more people, more Black men need to see this. They need to hear this. And it's just extraordinary for you to be so transparent and to just tell us, and just open up your life. You don't have to do this. You ain't getting paid for this. You just showed up and just helped me to do this. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And like you said, I am an open book, because I do feel blessed, and I don't feel like any of the things that I have or have achieved are because I'm just some great person, right? I had to learn, I had to work, I had to figure it out. So if there's somebody out there that is looking to be better, I'm an open book. I mean, I'll tell you what I have, what it took to get it. I mean,
can somebody reach you, Justin? How can somebody? You want to give your email, or
they can call you and you
okay, and then I'll put you in contact. Right.
They know you,
right?
It can be a personal recommendation,
especially after what you just said. Some of these ladies be, "Ooh, I'm gonna call him."
Yeah, we can't do it that way.
We can't. And I'll keep them off you too when they call me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this, and tune in for more extraordinary individuals like Justin Robinson. I'm here. I'm Andre Gouldsby, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week.
So hard, they're at the top of their game. We're about to make sure you know our names. Adonis Finest, the podcast, oh so fly. We stay on our grind, aiming high like diamonds. We shine, inspiring the master, motivation and elevation. Breaking down all classes, teaching reaching. We can show you never fall with a helping hand. We rise from the crawl, from the bottom to the top. Never be stopped. Say no to doubt, say no to fear. Pushing boundaries, making it clear. You've got the